Before empires rose and beastly powers ruled, one quiet observer saw it all unfold.
They stole his home. They ground his temple to dust.
They dragged him into exile, bound in heavy silence.
Yet he carried an inner fire they could never extinguish. They stripped his name, indoctrinated his mind, and fed him from the royal table. But he remembered exactly who he was. Surrounded by towering idols, he refused to bow. Inside the palace of dark magic, he spoke only truth. He mastered their tongue, but guarded his own heart. He wore their fine robes, but harbored another spirit. Even among the elite, he stood alone. While others bowed to survive, his fire burned. He spoke what others feared. He witnessed what others denied. During the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's rule over Judah, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon marched on Jerusalem and laid siege to it. The Lord delivered King Jehoiakim into his hands, along with sacred vessels from the temple of God. These treasures were carried off to the land of Shinar, where they were locked away inside the treasure house of the conqueror's pagan god. The king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his eunuchs, to bring in several young captives from the children of Israel. They chose boys of royal blood and nobility, handsome youths without any physical blemish, gifted with sharp minds and deep wisdom, filled with knowledge and understanding. These youths were fit to serve in the palace, ready to be trained in the literature and tongue of the Chaldeans. The king assigned them a daily ration of his own rich food and fine wine. For 3 years they were groomed, preparing for the day they would stand before the royal throne. Among those selected from the tribe of Judah was Daniel, along with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief eunuch gave them new names. Daniel became Belteshazzar, Hananiah was Shadrach, Mishael became Meshach, and Azariah became Abednego. But Daniel made up his mind that he would not defile his soul with the king's rich food or royal wine. So he begged the chief eunuch for permission to avoid these defiling foods. And God granted Daniel favor and sympathy in the eyes of this powerful official. But the official warned him, saying, "I fear my master the king, who has personally chosen your diet. What if he sees you looking thin and pale compared to the other young men your age? You would cost me my head." So Daniel turned to the steward, whom the chief eunuch had placed in charge of them. He pleaded, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with the other youths who eat the royal delicacies, and deal with us based on what you observe." The steward agreed to their request and tested them for 10 days. When the 10 days ended, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the youths eating the royal food. From then on, the steward took away their rich meals and wine, feeding them only vegetables. To these 4 young men, God granted exceptional knowledge, skill, and deep spiritual wisdom. Daniel was even gifted with the power to decipher mysteries in dreams and visions. When the 3 years of training ended, the chief eunuch presented them directly to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king interviewed them personally, and out of everyone, not a single person compared to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. In every single matter requiring deep wisdom and understanding, the king found them 10 times more capable than all the magicians and sorcerers in his entire realm. And Daniel remained there until the 1st year of King Cyrus. During his 2nd year of rule, Nebuchadnezzar had terrifying dreams. His mind was deeply troubled and sleep completely escaped him. He summoned his magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers to his presence. He demanded that the Chaldeans describe his dream. When they stood before him, the king declared, "I have had a dream that haunts me, and I must know what it means." The Chaldeans answered the king in Aramaic, "May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will explain its meaning." But the king replied to the Chaldeans, "I have forgotten the dream. If you cannot tell me both the dream and its meaning, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses turned to rubble. But if you can reveal the dream and interpret it, I will reward you with great wealth and honor. Now tell me my dream." Once more they pleaded, "If the king will only tell us the dream, we will gladly explain its meaning." But the king snapped, "What if your mind held a terrifying warning you could not remember?" The king knew his wise men were just stalling. "If you cannot reveal my nightmare, your fate is sealed. You only offer lies, waiting for my anger to pass. But the decree of death stands. Describe the dream itself, and only then will I believe you can reveal its true hidden meaning." The terrified mystics of Babylon bowed and answered the king. "No mortal on earth can read your mind. No ruler in history has ever demanded such an impossible task from his wisest sages. This request is too mysterious. Only the gods can reveal it, and their home is not among fragile breathing men." Enraged by their failure, the furious king issued a dark decree: execute every wise man in the empire of Babylon. The death sentence was signed. The royal guards marched out hunting for Daniel and his young friends to execute them. But Daniel spoke with profound wisdom and calm focus to Arioch, the captain sent to wipe out the wise men of Babylon. He asked the royal captain, "Why is the king's execution order so incredibly urgent?" When the captain explained the crisis, Daniel courageously stepped before the furious emperor, begging for just a little time to uncover the dream's hidden truth. Returning to his quarters, Daniel gathered his closest brothers, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, to reveal their imminent danger. He urged them to plead for divine mercy from the heavens, seeking to unlock this deep subconscious mystery, so they would not be executed with the rest of Babylon's sages. In the deep quiet of night, the great mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Filled with awe, Daniel praised the Creator of heaven. He cried out, "Praise his name forever, for all power and wisdom belong to him. He shapes history, shifting the seasons, raising empires up and tearing them down. He pours understanding into searching minds and shines a light on the deepest, most hidden mysteries of human existence. He sees exactly what lurks in the shadows, for absolute light lives within him. I thank you and praise you, God of my ancestors, for giving me strength and revealing what we desperately begged you to show us. You have unveiled the king's hidden thoughts." Armed with this truth, Daniel rushed to Arioch, the man commanded to slaughter the wise men. He pleaded, "Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the throne room, and I will explain the dream." Arioch quickly escorted Daniel into the presence of the restless king. Arioch announced, "I have found a young captive from the land of Judah who can explain your majesty's vision." The king turned to Daniel, whom they called Belteshazzar, demanding, "Can you really tell me what I saw and what it means?" Standing before the throne, Daniel answered calmly, "No astrologer, sorcerer, or clever advisor can decode the heavy mystery that keeps you awake at night. But there is a God in heaven who unlocks deep mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will unfold in the final days of humanity. This was your dream, the haunting vision that filled your mind as you lay sleeping. You lay there wondering about the future, staring into the dark unknown. And the one who uncovers all secrets has pulled back the veil to show you what lies ahead. I do not hold this key because I am wiser than other men. It was given to me so that you might understand the message and finally comprehend the deepest anxieties of your own heart. In your dream, you saw a massive, towering statue. It gleamed with a brilliant, blinding light, standing before you as an awesome and terrifying spectacle. The head of this immense statue was made of pure gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs, iron. And its feet, a fragile mix of iron and clay. As you watched, a mysterious stone, carved out by no human hand, crashed violently into the fragile feet of iron and clay, instantly shattering them. Suddenly, the iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold collapsed together, ground into fine dust like dry chaff blown away on a summer afternoon. The howling wind swept them into oblivion, leaving no trace of their existence. But the small stone that struck the statue grew into a massive mountain, filling the entire earth. This was your dream, and now we will reveal its true meaning. You, Your Majesty, are the supreme ruler, gifted with absolute dominion, power, strength, and glory by the God of heaven, wherever humans wander across this earth. He has placed the beasts and birds under your control, making you sovereign over all. You, great king, are that magnificent head of gold. But after you, a lesser empire will rise, followed by a third kingdom of bronze that will dominate the entire world. Then a fourth empire will emerge, strong as iron, crushing and shattering everything in its path. Just as iron breaks everything, it will smash all who resist. But the feet and toes you saw mixed with clay and iron represent a fractured, divided empire. It will retain some raw iron strength, but its fragile mixture reflects the deep internal fracture within our modern souls today. Just as those 10 toes were mixed with iron and clay, this empire will be divided, partly strong, yet fragile at its core. You watch as unyielding iron merged with soft, wet clay. They will try to unite through human alliances, but they can never truly hold together, just as iron cannot fuse with clay. During the reign of those earthly rulers, the God of heaven will establish an empire that can never be destroyed. Its power will never pass to another group of people. Instead, it will shatter and consume every earthly empire, standing forever, just like that mysterious stone cut from the mountain by no human hand. A stone that ground to powder the iron, the bronze, the clay, and the silver, and even the gold. The Almighty God has revealed the future to you, King. This ancient dream is real, and its meaning is absolute. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate on the ground, bowing before Daniel. He ordered his priests to present sacred offerings and sweet incense to the prophet. The king looked at Daniel and declared, "Surely your God is the supreme God, the master of kings and the revealer of mysteries, since you could uncover this hidden truth." Then the king elevated Daniel, showering him with treasures and appointing him ruler over the entire province of Babylon, as well as chief leader of all its wise men. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to manage the affairs of Babylon. Meanwhile, Daniel remained in the royal court. King Nebuchadnezzar then built a massive statue of gold, 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide, erecting it in the province of Babylon on the plain of Dura. The king then summoned his high officials, local governors and regional deputies to assemble, along with the judges, treasurers, advisors, and magistrates, demanding that every provincial leader attend the dedication of this golden monument. Soon, all the high officials, deputies, and regional governors gathered together, including the judges, treasurers, counselors, and local officers. And every provincial ruler assembled in solidarity to dedicate this massive image that King Nebuchadnezzar had erected. As they stood before the golden statue, a herald shouted to the crowd, "This is your royal command, citizens of every nation and tongue. When you hear the sound of horns, pipes, lyres, and harps, and every kind of music playing, you must bow down and worship the golden statue the king has built. Anyone who refuses to bow and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace." And so, the moment the vast crowd heard the swell of horns, pipes, lyres, harps, and flutes, and every instrument echoing across the plain, people of every language fell to the ground, worshiping the golden image the king had built. Yet at that very moment, several Chaldeans stepped forward to accuse the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You issued a decree, your majesty, that anyone who hears the sound of horns, pipes, lyres, and harps must bow low to worship this golden statue. You ordered that anyone who fails to bow down will be thrown instantly into the heart of a blazing furnace. Yet there are certain Jewish men whom you appointed to run the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, your majesty, pay no attention to you. They ignore your gods and refuse to worship the golden statue you built." Flying into a furious rage, Nebuchadnezzar ordered these 3 men to be dragged before him. So they were quickly brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar demanded, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or worship the gold image I have set up? If you are ready now, the moment you hear the music of the horns, pipes, and harps, to fall down and worship this statue I have crafted, then all will be well. But if you refuse, you will be cast immediately into the heart of a blazing furnace. What God could possibly rescue you from my hands now?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied calmly, "King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown in, the God we serve is fully capable of saving us from the blazing fire, and he will rescue us from your power, O king. But even if he does not let it be clear to you, O king, that we will never worship your gods or bow to your gold monument." This response pushed Nebuchadnezzar over the edge. His face twisted with absolute fury toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace to be stoked and heated 7 times hotter than ever before. He then ordered some of his strongest soldiers to tightly bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and hurl them directly into the roaring flames. Tied up in their robes, trousers, turbans, and all their clothing, The three men were thrown straight into the heart of the blazing furnace. Driven by the king's blind rage, the furnace burned so hot that its escaping tongues of fire consumed the very soldiers tasked with dragging the three rebels to their doom. Yet those three men, bound but free, fell straight into the heart of the roaring blaze. Instantly, Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet, gripped by a sudden terrifying confusion. Staring into the heat, he demanded of his court, "Did we not tie up three men and throw them in?" They whispered back, "Yes, your majesty." "But look," the king cried, "I see four men completely unbound, walking through the inferno without a single burn, and the fourth looks like a child of the heavens." Drawn by fear and wonder, the tyrant crept closer to the blistering opening. He called out into the heat, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the supreme God, step out of the ashes." As they walked out untouched, the gathering crowd of royal advisors, princes, and high officials pressed in closer, astonished to see that the flames had absolutely no power over them. Not a single hair on their heads was even slightly singed. Their robes were completely unblemished, and they did not even smell of smoke. Shaken to his core, the king declared, "Praise be to the God of these three men, who sent his divine messenger to rescue those who dared to defy my absolute royal decree. They willingly risked their lives rather than bow down or worship any deity but their own. So here is my new law for every tribe and nation. Anyone who speaks a single word against their God will be torn limb from limb, and their homes reduced to piles of ash, for no other power in existence can save people in this way." With that, the emperor elevated the three young rebels to high positions across Babylon. Now hear this official proclamation from the palace. "To every culture, language, and tribe under heaven, may you find peace. I feel compelled to share the profound, unsettling mysteries that the Supreme Creator has revealed to me. How breathtaking are His signs. How deeply shaking are His wonders. His authority outlasts time itself, spanning from one generation to the next. I was living in absolute luxury, comfortable and secure within my grand palace. Then a terrifying dream fractured my sleep, leaving me paralyzed with a deep psychological dread. I summoned every scholar and mystic in Babylon to decode this vision. All the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the ancient mind readers gathered in my hall, the elite priests and fortune-tellers. I laid bare my dream before them, yet they stood utterly silent, unable to grasp its meaning. Finally, Daniel stepped forward, the man I renamed Belteshazzar, who carries the breath of the divine within him. I recounted the vision to him, saying, "Chief of mystics, I know that a higher sacred wisdom lives in you, and no dark mystery can confuse your mind. Reveal the meaning of the strange things I saw while lying in the dark." This was the vision that haunted me. I looked, and there stood an immense tree at the center of the world, growing taller and stronger by the second. Its canopy pierced the clouds visible from the very edges of the earth. Its foliage was stunning, heavy with abundant fruit. It offered nourishment for every living thing. Wild beasts found cool shade beneath it, birds nested in its boughs, and the entire world fed from its branches. As I watched this silent vision unfold, a divine watcher descended from the heavens. He shouted with a thunderous voice, saying, "Chop down the tree, strip away its branches, scatter its leaves, and ruin its harvest. Drive the beasts from its shadow, and banish the birds from its shelter. But leave the ruined stump bound in the earth, shackled with iron and bronze, amidst the wild meadow grass. Let the cold dew drench him. Let his home be among the wild beasts grazing on the ground, and let his human mind be stripped away. Let him have the mind of a beast, and let 7 seasons pass over his exile." This verdict is handed down by the heavenly watchers, declared by the holy ones, so that all the living may understand that the Supreme Creator holds absolute power over human empires, giving authority to anyone He chooses, even raising the humblest from the dust. This is the terrifying vision that I, the king, witnessed. Now, Belteshazzar, tell me what it means. All the elite scholars in my empire have failed me, but you possess the quiet wisdom and the divine spirit to unlock it. Upon hearing this, Daniel stood frozen, deeply troubled by the dark implications of the dream. The emperor urged him, "Belteshazzar, do not let this vision or its meaning terrify you." Daniel replied softly, "My lord, I wish this warning applied only to your enemies and your rivals. That massive tree you saw, which grew strong, reaching toward heaven, and visible across the entire known world, with its stunning leaves, abundant harvest, and nourishment for every living creature. Under its shadow, wild beasts found shelter, and birds nested in its branches. That towering tree is you, O king, who has grown powerful and proud. Your towering ego now scrapes the very heavens, stretching your absolute control to the ends of the earth. But you saw a holy messenger descend from above, shouting a terrifying decree. Chop down the tree and smash it, yet leave its iron-bound stump deep in the cold earth, chained amidst the wild grass of the field. Drenched by the cold night dew, he must live like a beast of the wild, until 7 long seasons pass over his broken mind. This is what the dream means, great king. It is a divine sentence passed upon your very soul. You will be exiled from human society, forced to live among wild beasts in the dirt. You will graze on grass like cattle soaked by rain for 7 years. Only then will you realize that a higher power governs the human mind and gives authority to whom he chooses. But because the root stump was spared, your authority will return once you accept that heaven holds final sway. Listen, great king. Take my advice. Today, break free from your shadow of sin. Choose justice and show deep mercy to the poor. Perhaps then your peace of mind might last. But all of this soon befell King Nebuchadnezzar. 12 months later, the king was pacing on the high roofs of his palace in Babylon. He looked out and boasted, "Is this not magnificent Babylon, which I alone built by my own raw strength to display my unmatched glory and majesty?" Even as the arrogant words left his lips, a thunderous voice echoed from above. "To you, King Nebuchadnezzar, this is declared: your authority has just been stripped away. You will be cast out from humanity, forced to live in the dirt and graze like an ox. 7 seasons will pass over your broken mind until you realize that heaven governs the hearts of men and grants power as it pleases." In that very instant, the terrifying sentence was carried out. He was banished into the wild to graze like cattle. His body grew soaked with dew, his hair matted like eagle feathers, and his nails curved like bird claws. Finally, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up toward the heavens, and my sanity suddenly returned to me. I praised the eternal source of all life. His rule outlasts time itself, spanning from generation to generation, holding sway over every human soul. Beside his absolute power, all human ego fades into nothing. He shapes reality both in the cosmos and on this earth. No one can block his hand or demand to know what he is doing. In that precise moment, my clarity of mind returned. Along with my sanity, my royal honor and dignity were restored. My advisors welcomed me back. My throne was established, and my power grew even greater than before. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, honor the supreme ruler of heaven. His actions are true, his judgments are fair, and he knows exactly how to shatter human pride. Generations later, King Belshazzar threw a wild feast for 1,000 of his nobles, drinking deeply under the heavy influence of wine. He demanded the sacred gold and silver cups stolen from the Temple of Jerusalem by his ancestor, so that his lord's wives and mistresses could drink from them in mocking celebration. They brought out the holy vessels plundered from the temple of the divine, desecrating what was once set apart. The royal court poured their wine into the holy gold, drinking with arrogant disregard. They toasted their hollow idols, gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and cold, lifeless stone. In that exact moment, a phantom hand appeared, carving letters onto the plaster wall under the flickering lamplight. The king stared at the disembodied fingers, and his face turned pale with horror. Terror gripped his mind, his limbs went weak, and his body began to tremble. His knees knocked together in sheer panic. He screamed for his magicians, astrologers, and mystics to be brought in immediately. The terrified ruler pleaded with the wise men of Babylon. Anyone who can read this writing and explain it will be clothed in royal purple, wear a gold chain, and become the 3rd highest ruler in the land. The scholars rushed forward, but they stared blankly at the wall. None of them could read the strange script or explain its dark meaning. Belshazzar spiraled deeper into panic, his face ghastly pale, leaving his entire court paralyzed with fear. Hearing the panicked screams of the royal court, the Queen Mother entered the chaotic banquet hall. She spoke with calm authority. "May you live forever, King. Do not let your mind be paralyzed by fear, or your face grow pale. There is a man in your kingdom who carries the spirit of the holy gods within him. In the days of your ancestor, this man showed a deep wisdom and understanding that seemed to come from heaven itself. Nebuchadnezzar, your father? Yes. The great king himself appointed him chief over all the magicians, sorcerers, astrologers, and mystics. He possessed an extraordinary spirit, deep knowledge, and the rare ability to untangle dreams and explain dark mysteries, resolving the deepest doubts. This was Daniel, whom the king called Belteshazzar. Call for him now, and he will reveal the true meaning of this writing." So they ushered Daniel before the monarch. The king eyed him and asked, "Are you that Daniel, one of the Judean captives my father brought out of Judah? I hear the spirit of the divine lives within you, and that you possess rare insight, deep understanding, and supreme wisdom." My wise men and sorcerers were summoned. They were brought before me to read this writing and explain what it means, but they stood completely powerless to decode its hidden message. But I am told you can solve any mystery and untangle any doubt. If you can read these words and tell me what they mean, you will be dressed in royal purple, wear a golden chain of honor, and rule as the third highest power in this empire. Daniel stood before the king and replied, "Keep your gifts for yourself and give your rewards to someone else. Even so, I will read this inscription for you, king, and reveal its true meaning. Your Majesty, the Most High God, granted your father Nebuchadnezzar a vast kingdom, along with greatness, glory, and honor. Because of the immense power given to him, people of all nations and tongues trembled in his presence. He executed whomever he pleased and spared whomever he chose. He elevated those he favored and crushed those he wished to humble. But when his heart grew arrogant and stiffened with pride, he was stripped of his royal throne. His glory vanished. Exiled from human society, his mind became like that of a wild beast. He lived among the wild donkeys. He ate grass like cattle, his body drenched by the dew of heaven, until he realized that the Most High God rules over the kingdoms of mankind and appoints anyone he chooses to rule over them. But you, his successor, Belshazzar, have not humbled yourself even though you knew all this. Instead, you defied the Lord of heaven. You had the sacred cups from his temple brought to you. You, your nobles, your wives, and your consorts drank wine from them. You praised lifeless gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, gods that cannot see, hear, or understand. Yet you refuse to honor the God who holds your very breath and controls your destiny. That is why he sent this hand to write this inscription. This is the message inscribed on the wall, Mene Mene Tekel Parsin, and here is what it means. Mene, God, has numbered the days of your reign and ended it. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and failed the test. Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. At Belshazzar's command, they draped Daniel in purple, hung a gold chain around his neck, and declared him the third highest ruler in the entire empire. That very night, Belshazzar, the Chaldean king, was slain, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at 62 years old. Darius decided to appoint 120 governors to rule across every corner of his newly acquired kingdom. He placed 3 high administrators over them, including Daniel himself, to oversee these governors, so the king would suffer no financial loss. Soon Daniel outshone all the other administrators and governors because of the exceptional spirit within him. In fact, the king planned to place him in charge of the entire empire. This made the other leaders jealous. They tried to find some corruption in his work, but failed. He was completely faithful. Not a single mistake or flaw could be found. Finally, they realized, we will never find a ground for accusation against this Daniel unless it has to do with the law of his God. So these administrators and governors went as a group to the king and said, King Darius, live forever. All the royal administrators, prefects, high officials, and governors have agreed that the king should establish a strict royal decree and enforce it. For the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human except you, your majesty, must be thrown directly into the lion's den. Therefore, your majesty, issue this decree and sign it so it cannot be changed, in accordance with the unalterable law of the Medes and Persians. So King Darius signed the written decree. Even when Daniel learned that the document had been signed, he quietly went home. In his upstairs room with the windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down 3 times a day to pray and thank God, just as he had always done. The conspirators kept watch and caught Daniel praying and asking for help from his God. What if the laws we write to control others only end up imprisoning ourselves? Did you not sign a law stating that anyone who prays to any god or man for 30 days except to you, king, shall be thrown to the lions? The king replied that the decree was absolute, bound by the unyielding law of the Medes and Persians. They quickly pointed out Daniel, an exile from the fallen land of Judah, struggling to find his identity. He ignores your royal decree, king, choosing instead to offer his prayers 3 times every single day. Hearing this, the king felt a sudden dread. Deeply troubled, the king desperately resolved to save Daniel, struggling until the sun went down to find a way to rescue him. Yet his advisors gathered again, cornering him with his own law. Remember, O king, that under our rigid laws, no decree or statute signed by your own hand can ever be altered. Defeated by his own ego, the king ordered Daniel to be thrown into the dark pit of lions. The king whispered to him, saying, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." A massive stone was dragged over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring, locking him in, to ensure no one could rescue him. The king returned to his empty palace, fasting through the dark night. He refused all entertainment, and sleep completely escaped his troubled mind. At the first light of dawn, the king rushed to the pit. As he drew near, he cried out to Daniel in a voice broken by fear and anxiety. He called out, "Daniel, servant of the living God, are you there? Has your God, whom you serve so faithfully, been able to rescue you from the jaws of the lions?" Daniel replied, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths. They have not touched me because I am innocent in his eyes, and I have done no wrong to you, my king." Overjoyed, the king instantly commanded his guards to pull Daniel up from the dark depths. When Daniel emerged from the pit of death, he was completely untouched, for he had trusted in his God. But justice was brutal. The king ordered his accusers, along with their families, to be cast into the jaws of that same pit. Before they even reached the floor, the beasts overpowered them, crushing their bones to pieces. Then King Darius sent a decree to every nation, tribe, and tongue across the entire earth. "May you find abundant peace. I decree that throughout my kingdom, everyone must revere the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, eternal and constant through the ages. His kingdom will never fall, and his rule will never end. He is the one who rescues and delivers. He performs wonders in the heavens and on earth, saving Daniel from the jaws of savage beasts." Thus Daniel flourished through the reigns of Darius and Cyrus the Persian, a beacon of enduring faith. But the outer struggle was only half the map. In Babylon, Daniel received a terrifying vision in his sleep, revealing the deep, dark forces of the human psyche. Daniel wrote, "I saw in my night vision the 4 winds of heaven churning the great chaotic sea, a mirror of our own subconscious. Out of the dark water rose 4 massive beasts, each terrifying and unique. The first was like a winged lion. As I watched, its wings were torn away. It was lifted up to stand on 2 feet like a man. A human mind was given to it. Then a second beast emerged, resembling a savage bear. It reared up on one side, clutching 3 ribs between its sharp teeth, driven by a voice whispering to devour and consume. Next, a third beast appeared, like a swift leopard with 4 bird-like wings on its back. It had 4 heads, and vast dominion was granted to it. Then, in the deepest night, I saw a 4th beast, an incredibly terrifying force of pure destruction. With giant iron teeth, it crushed and devoured everything in its path, trampling the remains underfoot. It was unlike any beast before it, bristling with 10 menacing horns. As I studied them, a small, ambitious horn began to sprout among the others. 3 of the original horns were ripped out by their roots to make room. This small horn had human eyes, and a mouth boasting of its own absolute power. I watched as divine thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His garments were white as snow, his hair pure as wool. His throne was made of blazing fire on burning wheels. A river of fire flowed from his presence. Millions served him, and countless multitudes stood waiting before him. The cosmic court sat in judgment, and the books of life were opened, exposing the arrogant pride of the boasting horn. I watched until this monstrous beast was destroyed, its pride shattered and its body consumed by the cleansing fire. The other beasts lost their power but were spared for a time. Are these monsters outside us, or are they the shadows inside our own hearts? Have we forgotten what hides in our deepest dreams, like the ancient vision of a human figure riding the midnight clouds? This figure approached the eternal source of time itself, led directly into the presence of the ultimate mystery. He received absolute authority, a glory so profound that every nation and language on earth would answer to him. His rule is permanent, outlasting the rise and fall of empires, establishing a kingdom that can never be broken. But inside my soul was deeply shaken by what I saw. Terrified by these images, I approached one of the heavenly beings nearby, desperate to understand the truth behind this cosmic mystery. He answered me, revealing the deep psychological meaning behind these terrifying symbols. The 4 monstrous beasts you saw represent 4 powerful earthly rulers destined to rise from the dust. Yet the holy people of the Most High will ultimately inherit this empire, holding it for all eternity. Still, I desperately needed to know the truth about that terrifying 4th beast, a monster unlike the others, utterly horrific, with massive teeth forged from solid iron and claws of bronze. It crushed and devoured everything in its path, trampling the remains underfoot. I also had to ask about the 10 horns on its head, especially that single rising horn that ruthlessly knocked down 3 of the others. The horn boasting human eyes and a mouth spewing prideful words, looking far more menacing than all the rest. I watched this arrogant power wage war against the holy ones, crushing them until the Ancient of Days finally intervened, delivering justice to the people of the Most High, signaling the long-awaited moment for them to claim their destiny. He explained that this 4th beast represents a future empire unlike any before it, an oppressive force that will consume the entire world, trampling and shattering humanity. The 10 horns are 10 rulers who will rise from this empire, followed by a final, deceptive leader. This tyrant will be far different from his predecessors, crushing 3 rival kings to seize control. He will boastfully challenge the Most High, slowly draining the strength and spirit of the faithful. He will try to rewrite history and sacred laws dominating the world for a set period, a time, times, and half a time. But the cosmic courtroom will convene, stripping away his stolen power and completely destroying his tyranny forever. Then the true sovereignty and majesty of every earthly nation will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. His reign will endure forever, and every power on earth will bow in obedience. This is how the vision ends. I was left deeply disturbed, my face pale with dread, keeping these secrets locked deep in my heart. Then, during the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, another shocking revelation was shown directly to me. Daniel, following the terrifying dream I had experienced before, in this visionary state, I found myself standing within the fortress of Susa, located in the ancient province of Elam. As I looked out near the Uli River, I raised my eyes and witnessed a powerful ram with 2 massive horns standing right along the water. Both horns were imposing, but one towered over the other, growing taller even though it emerged later. I watched the beast charge west, north, and south. No other creature could stand against its unstoppable advance. There was no escape from its grasp. It acted purely out of its own pride, growing arrogant and unchecked. While I was pondering this, a swift male goat charged from the west, moving so fast across the earth, its feet barely touched the ground, bearing a single massive horn between its eyes. It locked its sights on the 2-horned ram I had seen standing earlier by the riverbank, and charged toward it with explosive rage. I watched the goat close the distance, completely consumed by a blinding personal fury. With a violent, shattering clash, he broke both of the ram's horns. Defeated and powerless, the ram was thrown to the dirt and mercilessly trampled. No force could rescue the ram from this onslaught, as the victorious goat grew incredibly powerful and arrogant. Yet at the very peak of its strength, its massive horns snapped, and 4 prominent horns sprouted in its place, pointing toward the four corners of heaven. From one of those branches, a small horn began to emerge, expanding rapidly toward the south, the east, and the beautiful sacred land. Its reach eventually stretched all the way to the starry host of heaven, hurling some of the stars and heavenly forces to the earth, ruthlessly crushing them underfoot. It even dared to challenge the prince of the host, stripping away his daily sacred sacrifices. The holy temple itself was thrown down and desecrated. Because of human rebellion, the sacred altar and the people were handed over to this devastating power. It trampled truth into the dirt, succeeding in everything it attempted. Then I heard a voice, a holy being speaking in the darkness. Another celestial being called out, questioning the one who had just spoken. How long must this horrific vision last? How long will the holy place be defiled and the faithful crushed underfoot by this terrible rebellion? He answered, for 2,300 days and nights. Then the holy sanctuary will finally be restored. As I, Daniel, struggled to grasp the profound meaning of this vision, suddenly, a figure with the appearance of a man stood right before my eyes. Who is speaking to us from the banks of the ancient river Ulai, calling through time? A command rang out to Gabriel to explain the vision. As the angel approached, absolute terror gripped me, and I collapsed to the ground. He spoke, calling me a son of man, telling me this revelation belongs to the final chapter of history. As he spoke, I sank into a deep, heavy sleep, my face pressed to the dirt. But his touch woke me, pulling me to my feet. Listen, he said. I will show you what happens when the final wrath unfolds, because the end has an appointed hour. The two-horned ram you witnessed represents the powerful empires of Media and Persia rising to dominate. That fierce, shaggy goat represents Greece, and the massive horn jutting between its eyes is their very first king. When that primary horn shatters, 4 lesser empires will rise in its place, inheriting the land, but never matching his legendary power. At the very end of their reign, when wickedness reaches its peak, a terrifying, cunning ruler will rise, a master of deception and dark secrets. His strength will be immense, fueled by a dark, unseen force. He will unleash terrible destruction, thriving in his cruelty, as he tears down both mighty leaders and the holy people. With absolute cunning, his web of lies will triumph. Growing incredibly arrogant, he will launch sudden, devastating attacks when his victims feel completely safe. He will even challenge the King of Kings, only to be shattered by no human hand. This haunting vision of the future is absolutely true, but seal it away for its fulfillment lies in a distant, forgotten time. I was left utterly devastated, physically sick for days. Eventually, I returned to my duties, still deeply haunted by a mystery nobody could comprehend. During the first year of Darius, a ruler of Mede descent, who was placed on the throne over the kingdom of the Chaldeans, at the very start of his reign, I, Daniel, studied the sacred prophetic scrolls and finally understood. The Lord had revealed to Jeremiah that Jerusalem's tragic desolation would last for exactly 70 long years. So I turned my face toward the Lord, pleading with him through intense prayer, fasting, sackcloth, and ashes. I poured out my heart in confession, praying, O Lord, the great and awesome God, who inspires deep reverence, who always honors his covenant, and pours out mercy on those who love him and follow his ways. We have sinned. We have done wrong. We have rebelled and turned our backs on your clear instructions and righteous laws. We refuse to listen to your servants, the prophets, who spoke your truth to our leaders, our rulers, and our ancestors, and every single citizen. Lord, you are entirely righteous, but today we are covered in deep shame from the people of Judah, including everyone living in Jerusalem and all Israel, both those nearby and those scattered far away, across every foreign land where you banished them because of their deep betrayal and unfaithfulness to you. Open shame belongs to us, Lord, to our leaders, our rulers, and our ancestors, because we have sinned against you. Yet you are a God of deep compassion and forgiveness. Even though we rebelled against you, we did not listen to your voice, Lord, or live by the instructions you gave us through your prophets. The entire nation of Israel has broken your law, deliberately turning away and refusing to hear your voice. Because we sinned, the devastating curse and judgment written in the law of Moses, your servant, have been poured out upon us. You have fulfilled every warning spoken against us and our leaders, bringing this truly unimaginable disaster upon our heads. Nowhere under heaven has such total devastation occurred as what has been done to Jerusalem. Just as the ancient law of Moses warned, this entire nightmare has overtaken us. Yet we still did not seek your favor, failing to turn away from our sins and gain true discernment. So the Lord kept this disaster ready and brought it straight upon us. The Lord our God is perfectly fair in everything he does, but we simply refuse to obey his voice. And now, Lord our God, you who rescued your people from Egypt with incredible power and carved out a legendary name, we confess that we have sinned and acted terribly. In line with your faithful justice, please turn your hot anger away from Jerusalem, your beloved city and holy mountain. Because of our deep sins and the failures of our ancestors, Jerusalem and your people are now mocked by everyone around us. So now, our God, hear the desperate prayers and pleas of your servant. For your own sake, look with favor on your ruined and lonely sanctuary. Listen closely, my God, and hear us. Open your eyes and look at our ruin, at the very city that bears your name. We do not bring our prayers to you because we are righteous, but solely because of your immense mercy. Lord, hear us. Lord, forgive. Please pay attention and act. Do not delay, my God. Redeem our modern exile, for this city and these people bear your name. While I was still weeping in prayer, pouring out my own failures and the sins of my people, laying my broken heart before the Lord my God for his holy mountain. Yes, as I was still praying, Gabriel, the one from my first vision, came rushing down like a sudden wind, touching me just as the evening sacrifice began. He guided my thoughts and spoke to me. Daniel, he said, I have come to bring you deep insight and true understanding. The moment you started crying out, an answer was sent. I am here to deliver it because you are deeply loved. So listen closely to the vision. 70 weeks are set for your people and your holy city, to put an end to rebellion and finish with sin, to heal the deep wounds of guilt, and to usher in an endless righteousness, to fulfill the visions and prophets, and to anoint the most sacred place. Understand this. From the decree to rebuild Jerusalem until the chosen leader arrives, there will be 7 weeks, then 62 weeks. Its streets and defenses will rise again, though the times will be dark and heavy. After those 62 weeks, the chosen one will be killed, left with absolutely nothing. An invading ruler will send armies to tear down the city and the sacred temple. The end will rush in like a flood, bringing relentless war. Ruin is guaranteed. This ruler will force a harsh alliance upon many for 1 week. Halfway through that week, he will shut down all sacrifices and offerings. On the wings of horrific acts, a destroyer will come to lay everything waste until the final decreed anger is poured out on this very monster. During the 3rd year of King Cyrus of Persia, a mystery was shown to Daniel, who went by the name Belteshazzar. The warning was real, speaking of a massive conflict. He grasped its meaning and truly saw the vision. Back then, I was in deep grief for 3 whole weeks. I touched no fine foods. Neither meat nor wine passed my lips. I used no oils until those 21 days ended. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I stood beside the great river, the Tigris, I raised my eyes and peered into the distance. And there he was, a man dressed in pure linen, his waist wrapped in a belt of finest gold. His body shone like precious stone. His face flashed like lightning. His eyes burned like fire. His arms and legs gleamed like polished bronze, and his voice sounded like a roaring crowd. I, Daniel, was the only one who saw this. The men with me saw nothing, yet a sudden terrifying panic gripped them, and they ran to hide. I was left entirely on my own, staring at this massive revelation. My energy drained away, my face turned ghostly pale, and my power vanished. Yet I could still hear him speaking. As those words hit me, I collapsed, falling face first into a deep, heavy sleep on the dirt. Suddenly, a hand touched me, helping me rise onto my trembling hands and knees. He said, "Daniel, you are highly valued. Pay attention to what I say and stand up, because I have been sent directly to you." As he said this, I struggled to my feet, shaking. He continued, "Do not fear, Daniel. From the very first day you resolved to find true understanding and humbled yourself before God, your prayers were heard. I have traveled here because of your cry. Yet the ruler of Persia blocked my path for 21 days. Then Michael, one of the primary guardians, arrived to help because I was trapped there with the Persian kings. Now I am here to explain what lies ahead for your people, for this vision concerns a distant future." As he spoke these words, I stared down at the dirt, completely unable to speak. Then someone who looked like a man reached out and touched my lips. I found my voice and told the one standing before me, "My Lord, this revelation has filled me with deep anguish and taken all my strength. How can a mere servant like me speak with someone as great as you? My energy is gone and I can barely breathe." Once more, the figure who looked like a man touched me, and my strength returned. He said, "Highly valued man, do not fear. Peace be with you. Stand strong. Be strong indeed." As he spoke, power filled me, and I said, "Speak, my Lord, for you have given me strength." Then he asked, "Do you understand why I came? Now I must go back to battle against the Prince of Persia. Once I leave, the Prince of Greece will rise. But first, I will reveal what is recorded in the Book of Truth. No one stands with me against these forces except Michael, your protector. In the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood up to support him. Now I will reveal the truth to you. 3 more kings will rise in Persia, and a 4th will accumulate immense wealth. Using that vast wealth, he will mobilize everyone to attack the kingdom of Greece. A powerful king will emerge, wielding massive authority and doing exactly as he pleases. Could this ancient prophecy be a psychological map of our own internal collapses? When the ruler rises, his empire shatters, scattered to the 4 winds, leaving nothing for his children. His legacy is violently uprooted, handed over to complete strangers. The southern king grows powerful, but one of his own princes eclipses him, seizing absolute control. His rule becomes massive, but after many years, these bitter enemies attempt a fragile alliance. The southern princess is sent to the northern king, a political sacrifice to seal their peace treaty. But her political leverage fails completely. The northern king falls, and she is utterly abandoned, handed over to death along with her entire royal entourage, the father who used her, and every ally who once kept her safe. Yet from her family line, a branch rises. A brother rises to avenge her. He takes command of the army, breaches the grand fortresses of the northern king, wages war against them, and emerges victorious. He plunders their sacred idols, stripping away their precious gold and silver treasures, carrying them back as spoils to Egypt. For several years, he will leave the northern kingdom in peace. The northern king will launch an invasion into the south, but will be forced to retreat empty-handed. His sons rally, assembling a massive army. One of them sweeps forward like an unstoppable flood, breaching all defenses. He returns, pushing the battle right to the enemy stronghold. Enraged, the southern king marches out with a massive force to clash directly with the king of the north. The northern ruler raises a massive army, but they are delivered straight into the enemy's hands. Blinded by pride after slaughtering tens of thousands, his ego swells. Yet his victory will not last. The northern king returns to the battlefield, gathering an army even larger than the first. Years later, he marches forward once more, commanding a massive, heavily equipped army backed by immense wealth. During this chaos, many rebel against the south. Even violent factions among your own people rise up to fulfill their own visions, but they will fail miserably. The northern king advances, building massive siege ramps to conquer a heavily fortified city. The southern armies crumble. Even their elite forces lack the strength to resist the onslaught. The northern conqueror does exactly as he pleases, with absolutely no one left to stand against him. He occupies the beautiful promised land, bringing total devastation, determined to conquer with his full military might. While proposing a deceptive peace treaty to his enemies, he seals the deal, offering his daughter in marriage to ruin their kingdom from within. But his plan backfires. She sides with his enemy. Frustrated, he turns his focus to conquering the distant coastlines and islands. However, a foreign commander will put an end to his arrogance, turning his own humiliation right back upon him. Forced to retreat to his own fortresses, He will stumble, fall, and vanish from history forever. In his place, a successor arises who sends tax collectors to plunder the land just to maintain his fragile empire. Yet within a short time, he is quietly eliminated, not in battle, but by poison. Next, a despised and cruel usurper takes the throne, someone completely unworthy of true royal honor. He strikes when people feel safe, seizing absolute power through sweet-talking deception, completely crushing and breaking any armies that dare stand against him. Even the high priest of the covenant is betrayed. After forming alliances, this tyrant works deceitfully, growing powerful with only a small circle of followers. Unexpectedly, he invades the richest, most fertile regions when the people feel most secure. He behaves worse than his ancestors ever did, distributing plundered wealth and stolen riches to buy his followers' loyalty. He plots his strategy to capture major fortresses, but his time is limited. Summoning his courage, he leads a massive force to attack the king of the south. The southern king fights back with an incredibly powerful army, but he cannot stand because of conspiracies and treachery hatched behind his back. Even his trusted advisors betray him from within, wiping out his army and leaving countless dead on the battlefield. Both of these rulers are corrupt, sitting at the same table, feeding each other clever lies. But their schemes fail because the final end comes only at the appointed hour. He returns home loaded with plunder. Obsessed with destroying the Holy Covenant, he unleashes his fury on the people before returning home. At the scheduled time, he invades the south again. But this second attempt fails miserably because warships from Kittim arrive to block his path. Humiliated and furious, he retreats, venting his boiling rage directly against the sacred covenant. He rewards and favors those corrupt people who willingly abandon the Holy Covenant. His soldiers desecrate the sacred temple fortress, completely banning the daily offerings and stopping all holy worship. They erect the devastating abomination of desolation, a warning of how easily we betray our own sacred inner truth for cheap flattery. What if the ultimate battle is within, where those who know their Creator stand unshakable? The truly wise will guide others through the darkness, yet they must endure the heat of the fire, facing betrayal, hardship, and long seasons of isolation. When they stumble, only a quiet hand will lift them up, while crowds gather with false praise and empty promises. Even the wise must fall, not to perish, but to be purified and made clean in the crucible. This trial continues until the appointed hour of the end. Then a ruthless power will rule by its own raw ego. This tyrant will exalt himself above every sacred truth, shouting proud, defiant words against the ultimate source of life. He will seem to succeed until the shadow has run its course. Destined events must unfold. Abandoning the ancient faith of his ancestors and ignoring natural human desires, he exalts himself alone, worshiping only the cold god of force and steel. He pours gold and silver into a strange, soulless god that his ancestors never knew. Showering it with precious jewels and luxury, he attacks the strongest walls, driven by this strange, alien spirit. He rewards those who bow to him, giving them power and selling off the land for profit. When the final hour strikes, rival powers from the south will clash with him, while the northern force sweeps down like a whirlwind of steel and warships. He will invade nations, flooding across borders like an unstoppable tide. He will breach the sacred sanctuary, and many nations will fall. Yet a few lands will slip from his grasp. The ancient borders of Edom, Moab, and Ammon will escape as he stretches his iron grip over other territories. Not even Egypt will escape. He will seize all its secret wealth, controlling every vault of gold and silver. Distant empires will bow at his feet, but sudden rumors from the east and north will shatter his peace. Filled with blind rage, he will march out to destroy and completely wipe out millions. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas and the holy mountain. Yet he will fall alone, utterly abandoned. In that hour of darkness, Michael will rise, the great protector who guards the souls of your people. Then comes a time of deep distress unlike anything since the dawn of humanity. Yet everyone whose name is written in the book of life will be saved. Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will suddenly wake up, some rising to eternal life, and others to endless shame. The wise will shine as bright as the vast heavens above, and those who lead others to truth will shine like the stars for all eternity. But you, Daniel, must seal these words until the very end, when humanity rushes to and fro in search of answers and knowledge rapidly increases. Looking up, I saw two other figures standing on opposite banks of the quiet river. One called out to the figure in white linen who stood above the waters, asking how long until these terrifying and wondrous things finally reached their end. I watched the figure clothed in pure linen as he stood above the flowing river. He raised both hands toward the sky, swearing by the eternal Creator that it would last for a time, times, and half a time. Only when the crushing of the sacred people is complete will all these mysteries finally be fulfilled. I heard his voice, but my mind could not grasp it. I asked, "What is the ultimate end of all this?" "Go your way, Daniel," he replied, "for these secrets are locked away until the final hour of history. Many will be tested and made pure, while the blind stumble in darkness, unable to see. But the wise will truly understand. From the day the sacred ritual is stopped and the devastating horror is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who endures and reaches 1,335 days. As for you, walk your path until the end. You will rest, then rise to claim your destiny." If this ancient map of the human soul spoke to you today, do not stay silent. Join our mission to share these profound truths. Pass this video on to friends, family, or anyone searching for deeper meaning in troubled times. Subscribe to join our next search for ancient wisdom. Remember, these timeless patterns show that history is guided by a higher hand. Human empires crumble, but eternal truth remains. Tell us in the comments which part of this story shook you most. Which prophecy should we decode next? May Daniel's clarity guide you, and may the power that tames wild beasts watch over you. May the hope of everlasting life guide your steps. Stand firm in your ultimate truth. Just as Daniel survived the dark, so can you. Thank you for walking this path with us. Why did a desperate runaway spend an entire night wrestling a faceless stranger in the dirt? This ancient struggle was not some physical duel. It is the quiet war raging inside your own mind.